It's time for Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here is your host, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
As I was walking down the street one day, a man came up to me and asked me what the time was that was on my watch.
Welcome into Wolo and Friends. No Dave Woloshin today, except we do have Dave Woloshin today. He's joining us live from the NCAA tournament in Columbus, Ohio, correct?
Correct.
Well, let's ask him. No need to waste time. Dave, can you hear us? How are you this morning?
We hear you beautifully. I can speak, actually, close to beautifully. I got to thank trainer Daryl Turner. When I arrived here, I was on the verge of a very bad cold, which then became a very bad cold. So much to the extent I couldn't come on yesterday. I felt so poor. My voice was so bad. And I thank you, J-Mo, for at the last second getting it all together. And Bryant, I assume you were in on it too. So I thank you guys. And Turner gave me some unbelievably good drugs and a steroid pack. And here I am today. I will be able to do the game tonight. And I can talk to you. And it's really, I think, going to be a fun day. I did go to practices yesterday. I watched FAU. I watched Memphis. I see the joy in Memphis's eye. I see a confidence in Memphis's eye. And this combination of Williams and Davis, well, Davis is on the verge of something that it's tough to believe. He's got one of the greatest of all Tigers' averages for a single season. So the best, I believe, is Larry Finch all time. And second best would be the coach. That would be Penny Hardaway. But Davis at close to 21 points per game. He is number 3. But he's only 35 points away from the greatest single season ever. So you have to think, if they get past FAU, he's going to do it. DeJuan Wagner is the guy. He had 762. So KD is 35 away from that. He's only 2 away from surpassing Penny Hardaway. He's got 728 points now. Hardaway had 29. That was second best. So he's going to break that for sure. And Williams, he's been averaging 26 and 12. Now, there's going to be a big guy in the middle for FAU, who's a 7-1 guy from Russia, started at Texas Tech. His name is Vladislav Golden. He's 7-1. He's blocked 41 shots. So it may be a little bit tougher for DeAndre Williams to operate, but the guy's averaged 26 and 12 the last 3 games at the tournament to win the title. And the Tigers are hoping, that momentum from winning a championship, from accomplishing one of the first goals they had this year, and coming from beating a number 1 team in Houston, by the way, did have trouble last night. Sasser got re-injured, but they did win the 116 for a minute there. It was in doubt. But, they're going to try to use that momentum from the Houston win and go on and move. And I know FAU has won 7 in a row. I know they won the CUSA title. I know they have 31 wins, which is the most wins in their history in a single season. But in watching them and in watching Memphis, I think the Tigers should win the game. And J-Mo, by the way, yesterday, I don't know what your picks were, but I was 13-3.
Wow.
That was better than me. I missed 5. So what would that be? 11 and 5, is that right? Yeah, 11 and 5 then. Yeah, so you're one better than me, or 2 better than me, Dave.
Yeah, 11 and 5. Wow. I know you picked an upset. Did you pick Princeton over Arizona?
No, I had Furman over Virginia. I had Arizona in the Final Four.
Oh, you had Furman over Virginia. What a pick. I knew you had one of those crazy ones. What a great pick.
Furman's a good team.
Yeah, if you think about it, Bennett has, in the last few years, lost to a number 16 seed the only time in history, won a national title, which was amazing to come back from that and do it. But then He has now lost to a 13 seed as a 4 seed 2 times in a row. Furman did it again. It's a good thing he won that national title. That's all I can say.
True.
Tough
Sure.
team too, though. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. Well, Dave, I'm first off, I'm glad you're feeling better today. But you were able to see that team last year, that Memphis team last year, make that first NCAA tournament, and kind of got to see all the guys be able to experience that. But for guys like Kendrick and some of those other guys that joined the team this year, I mean, how cool was it to see them be able to kind of start experiencing that NCAA tournament experience yesterday with the practice and media availabilities?
Well, it's great that you bring it up, Ryan, because it was moving. So we're in the media room, and as the guys come in and they're starting to sit down, and there's a placard in front of Kendrick Davis, and Williams whispers to him, "You're here. You made it." And, he looked around. You could see the joy in his eyes, and he was actually asked about that. And this is what the kid wanted. We're going to remember Kendrick Davis for all the scoring and his will to win. He will be more judged now. I mean, if he wants to be, and he's said it, he wants to be judged with the Tiger greats. Well, that's going to come down to, can you move your team into the round of 32? Can you get them into the Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight? And as an 8 seed, that's tough. But can he do that? But I do think, to your question, that there is a sense of accomplishment that he feels like, I made the right choice in coming here. I wanted to go to the NCAAs. Penny Hardaway made me a pinky promise. We've lived up to that. We beat a number one. Nobody else in Memphis has ever done that before. No coach had ever done that before. Penny Hardaway, not Finch, not Calipari, not Dana Kirk, nobody. He did it, not Gene Bartow. So they've done some pretty good things, but this is why KD came. This is why Franklin came. This is why McCadden came. This is why Keontae Kennedy came. None of those guys have ever made the NCAA tournament. This year they have. This year they won a conference title. So there's a lot of, I think, pride, a sense of fulfillment, but you can't live on that. Now you got to think, if we're really going to be judged with the greats, particularly Kendrick Davis, and he said he wants to go down, I heard him say this, with Penny, with Keith Lee, with Derrick Rose. Well, if you're going to do that, you got to take your team a ways. Penny took his team to the Elite Eight. Obviously, Rose took his team to the final game. Keith Lee took his team to the Final Four. So if you want to be remembered in those terms, you got to win NCAA games. Forget being MVP of the conference tournament. That's big too. But if you're going to be judged with those, which is what he wants, you got to win at the biggest stage.
Well, it all starts with this first one tonight, doesn't it? Florida Atlantic, and you mentioned a little bit about them. They got the big kid, 50 Golden inside. I watched a couple of their games yesterday, and they have some other really good players, talented guys. Who are the guys that you're looking forward to today to seeing, and maybe some keys that the Tigers need to stop in terms of some players or some things that Florida Atlantic does?
Well, the very first thing that you got to stop is their perimeter defense. I mean, their perimeter shooting. They're unbelievable. They make 10 threes a game. They shoot those threes at 37%. They're phenomenal. 7 different guys shoot threes with a high degree of accuracy. 7 have hit over 30 threes. He plays a lot of guys. I mean, the most guy plays 25 and a half minutes. That's it. So they're not going to get tired. They're really deep. And as I mentioned, they all shoot threes. So Golden's the guy in the middle. He wasn't even all first-team conference USA. He was third. Their best maybe all-around player, who's the MVP of this USA tournament, is a kid from Summit, Mississippi. I'm not sure where the heck that is, but it's Mississippi, for goodness sakes. His name is Elijah Martin. He had 30 points and 11 rebounds in the game against UAB that won them their title. There's a guy who was coming off the bench who now starts. His name is John L. Davis. He's from Gary, Indiana. He was the 6th man of the year in CUSA, but he was all first-team conference. He's starting now in conference games. He averaged 15. And there's a kid named Nick Boyd from New York who he's hit 58 threes at 41%. and has 81 assists to go with it. I mean, that's the way they are. They really have 7 different guys that are all interchangeable with that big guy in the middle who's got 41 blocks. They're a good team. Now, have they played a great schedule? The losses have come all on the road at UAB, at Middle Tennessee, and at Florida. They do have they did take a loss. I'm sorry, to Ole Miss. They lost to Ole Miss on the road. They had a win at Florida, so they lost to Middle, UAB, and at Ole Miss. But that was the second game of the year, so things changed for sure. The win at Florida, I am told that not all the Gators were there, but the Gators looked terrible in the NIT against UCF. I watched a bunch of that game, so I don't know how good they are. So I guess you have to go. They got 31 wins, but did they play a great schedule? Well, their net is still 13. They're ranked 25th in the country, one behind Memphis at 24. Their net is 10 spots better than Memphis at 23. But in just looking at them, trying to match up in my mind as I watched all the shoot-arounds, and I don't know how much you can gauge from shoot-arounds, but I feel like Memphis should win this game.
You mentioned the 2 guys that impressed me the most. Elijah Martin, like you said, had 30 points, but I really like number 1, the John L. Davis kid. He's a big guard, physical guard. He's going to be a tough matchup for the Tigers. One thing I think that works in the Tigers' favor is they force a lot.
Let me just tell you one thing about John L. Davis
Go
that
ahead.
I noticed in warm-ups during drills. The dude turns the ball over. He's got 56 turnovers. He is not a good ball handler. If they trap that guy, he's got a problem.
That's what I was about to say. Is I think turnovers could be an issue. They seem to over dribble a little bit, and the Tigers are really good at forcing turnovers. So you think that could be a key to the game as well?
Well, I do. I think that's the second key I had. Perimeter defense is number 1. Turnovers. I think that Memphis can turn them over. And then the third thing I would say is rebounds. They're unbelievable. When they out-rebound teams, they're like 24-0. A lot of those rebounds are going to end up being long rebounds from missed threes. So I think you've really got to be aware of that.
Yeah, I agree with you. 15 good guard rebounder, too.
Yeah, for sure. I do want to ask, you mentioned that big guy in the middle, Golden. How much of a problem could that pose to Malcolm and DeAndre down low, or do you think that they'll be able to kind of get their own against him?
That's a great question. I don't really know. He's not that big. They list him at 7'1", 240. I think he's kind of skinny. He's a confident guy. Although I must say, when they were doing their interviews after Memphis had done them, and you have this, KD is, speaking eloquently. Williams said some poignant things. Alo is always understated but smart. And then these guys came out, and Nick Boyd was there, Elijah Martin was there. I think John L. Davis was there. Golden certainly was. They almost looked like the stage was too big. Now, maybe I'm just sort of reading into that, overreading a little bit, but I just didn't get the sense like, oh, these guys are savvy, they're experienced, they know what they're doing. It looked like a little bit of deer in headlights to me.
Interesting. That definitely could be a factor. We saw kind of what Oral Roberts looked like when it seemed like the stage was too big for them last night, especially early. For the Tigers, I know I feel like I've asked you this multiple times the past couple of weeks, but there's still a lot of hope out there with Keontae Kennedy maybe coming back if they can make the second weekend or something like that. Does it still seem like kind of far-fetched to see him back this season?
He was out there. He was doing drills left-handed, trying to do some conditioning stuff. I don't know. I was pretty well told, and I looked at his x-ray, to be honest with you, and there's 4 pins in that hand. I would be amazed if he was ready to go next week. I really would be. But who knows? I'll give you a great example at how good Memphis's trainers and the folks at Campbell Clinic are. But Alo's injury was that groin injury. Actually, the ligament pulled away from the bone. Normally, that takes 5 months to heal. 5 months. And 39 days later, this dude was back playing. So, who knows? These athletes heal quicker. And with all the new technology they have to get you better quicker, maybe. But at this point, I'd find it hard to believe that Kennedy could come back. But he was here, and he was participating, not shooting, but doing drills with his offhand, his left hand, as the rest of the team practiced. He was working with the coach.
Well, it's good that these games are spread out, too. Even if he misses these first two, you got a whole nother week to heal, so hopefully that's a good sign as well. Well, Dave, we're obviously really excited about this Memphis and Florida Atlantic game, and we hope it's a win for the Tigers. But there was 16 games went off yesterday already, and I'm sure you got to see a good amount of them. We talked a little bit about Virginia Furman.
I did.
Which games were most exciting to you? Which ones did you take away the most from?
I would say, well, there's several. Houston's got a problem if Sasser can't play. Calvin Sampson was complaining after the game that Shedd's got a knee issue too. So now there's his starting backcourt that's not either going to play or not 100%. And he was complaining about having to play Auburn a home game, which is true. I think the committee really did a disservice to Iowa and to Houston in putting a 9-seed Auburn in Birmingham. That was not fair. I guess I'm shocked at the Virginia Furman thing. Virginia just can't figure it out how to score. That's just been the MO for them. I think Tennessee was able to get past Louisiana, but I'm going to tell you that was not easy. They were fortunate to win that game. They have a real hard time scoring as well. They were just too good inside. And I guess I was shocked that Penn State beat the you-know-what out of A&M. I had A&M winning that game. I thought A&M could make a run, although I believe I had Texas maybe beating them. But Penn State destroyed them.
Sure did.
That's a 10 seed beating the heck out of the 7. I was a bit surprised at that one. How about you?
Well, I was really impressed by Furman yesterday. All these small schools I was really impressed with. Even Charleston that lost to San Diego State. And
that was a great game.
And San Diego State is giant. I mean, I've never seen them play before. Those are some big dudes on that team. They're going to be a problem for anybody that they run into down the stretch of this tournament. I think if you watched all the games yesterday, it seemed to me the best team. You mentioned Houston struggles. Kansas had their own version of struggles in the first 10 minutes of that game. It seems like the best team right now is Alabama, but they might have played the worst team in the tournament. What do you think?
I think Alabama is the number 1 overall seed, and I think that's right. A lot of people had College at Charleston. There's 31 wins again, right? Just like FAU going far. And so, San Diego State's a good team. You got to figure they're going to advance now over Furman, but who knows? Like, you were impressed with Furman. I don't know. I know Duke kind of cruised. Now they got Tennessee. I'll be shocked if they don't beat Tennessee. Yeah. And then Memphis is sitting there hoping that if they can win and then beat Purdue, they could play either Duke or Tennessee. Either way, what a matchup in Madison Square Garden a week from today. Are you kidding me?
That'd be awesome. That'd be so much fun. But Dave,
in the Garden?
Yeah, in the Garden. That'd be great. Just curious, because I wasn't able to listen the other day. Who do you have as your national champion in your bracket?
I have Kansas.
That's a good pick.
Yeah, head-to-head with
I have
me.
Kansas going back-to-back.
You're head-to-head with me and Bryant, who both have Gonzaga. Yeah. So then we got Gonzaga coming out of the pool there. So we'll see what happens in that bracket. Kansas, like we said, first 10 minutes looked tough against Howard, but they play Arkansas next, and I was not impressed at all with that Arkansas-Illinois game. I in fact turned it off. I just thought it was an ugly basketball game, and I went to go watch Arizona and Princeton. Oh, that's another one.
You know what? Illinois really did. Illinois did not play well at all. Arkansas has the talent and the athleticism to be a Final Four team. I mean, I don't know that they can get past Kansas. I really don't, but I wouldn't be shocked either. That they have the horses. Mm-hmm. And if Bill Self doesn't coach, then that's a big advantage to Musselman.
It is. I'm not sure Arkansas is smart enough either. That was just such an ugly. It just did not.
They rely on so many freshmen.
Yeah, I just didn't think they played it. Yeah, that's a good point, Brian. I just didn't think they played a very high IQ brand of basketball yesterday. But nonetheless, a good first day of games, and we got another full slate today, Dave. I hope you get to enjoy some of the games since Memphis plays a late one tonight. But we'll be listening to you, and hopefully the Tigers can get a win, and you get another game on Sunday.
Well, I'm actually going to leave here in just a little bit, and I'm going to go watch USC and Michigan State in person.
So you get a full slate in person. There ought to be great stuff, Dave. Have a good call tonight. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Should be a lot of fun, and I look forward to seeing both of you guys on Monday. The only thing that could mess that up, just so you get a heads up, is that we are not certain if we were to play Purdue, because I got a feeling it's going to be Purdue. But if we play on Sunday, I'm not sure when Memphis leaves. They may leave Monday morning during our show, in which case, obviously, I got to be on that plane.
That's the only way you can get home.
Oh, and I do one last thing before I go.
Please.
How about those Lady Tigers? A sold-out El Marone Fieldhouse.
That was awesome.
And they win and move on to the second round of the women's NIT.
Yeah, that was a fun game last night. Like you said, sold-out crowd. I believe wire-to-wire win for the Lady Tigers. That's a good team they got building over there.
Let's keep the streak going today.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, Dave, thanks so much. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Dave Wolo, voice of the Tigers, joining us here. It's so nice to do that on the road.
Overlooking Fairleigh Dickinson a little bit.
Fairleigh Dickinson. I actually liked Fairleigh Dickinson. They ran Princeton against Texas Southern, and Texas Southern, it was too much for them. They didn't know what was going on.
Texas Southern shouldn't have been in the
I've got a
tournament.
feeling Purdue, though, the thing that they can get you with Princeton is because they're playing back cuts. Purdue will not be overplaying anything because they have a giant 7'5" player to sit in the middle of the paint and block
And
more
they just
shots.
sit him there.
And there's no defense of 3 seconds you see in college basketball.
In college ball.
Unlike the National Basketball Association. Well, that was fun. Some good games yesterday. Dave only lost 3 games in his bracket.
Hey, I mean...
And you lost 4?
Lost 4,
Well,
yeah.
here you go. I mean, you guys are all over it. I lost 5.
Well...
I guess just 1 game away.
But I also had Texas A&M going to the Elite Eight.
Well,
so.
I had Arizona going to the Final Four, so that's the way the cookie crumbles.
Right.
Well, that was good college basketball talk. More college basketball to come later. We got some big games today. But coming up next, we talk the NBA with Andy Schiffman. That's next.
Be sure to follow us at Sports56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows, stay up to date with station events, and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports56 WHBQ.
With winter arriving, we start to think about spirit, and I've got the spirit I think about. It's from Old Dominick. You know Old Dominick? That is our hometown distillery, right in the heart of downtown. Old Dominick, by the way, gives full distillery tours with curated tastings. There's craft cocktails. It is really a neat place to go. So when you're looking for something to do downtown, something a little different, I suggest you go see my friends at Old Dominick. The other aspect about Old Dominick is the product itself. What a great spirit that they have just finally released. So they have this master distiller. Her name is Alex Castle. She won't let anything be released until it's perfect. We've been waiting a long time for 2 whiskeys. One's a sipping, the other is bottle in bond. They are incredible. It took a long time, but Old Dominick has finally released those 2 whiskeys. You will love the spirit at Old Dominick.
If you need glass replaced, there's only one name you need to know. Binswanger Glass, the largest full-service glass company in the U.S. They've been an industry leader for over 145 years. For all your residential, commercial, or auto glass needs, Binswanger Glass is the name you need to know. 24-hour emergency service for all commercial customers, plus a nationwide warranty on all professionally installed glass. Visit Binswanger Glass in Midtown at 340 South Hollywood across from the Liberty Bowl. Visit binswingerglass.com. Binswanger Glass.
Calling all the Mid-South. South. Bobby J is waiting for your call today to drive off in your new Kia from Gossett Kia on the Pike. 2023 Kia Soul LX $333 a month, $27.99 due at signing. Or 2023 Kia K5 LXS $362 a month, $31.99 due at signing. And 2023 Kia Sportage LX all-wheel drive $381 a month, $34.99 due at signing, all 36-month lease. And if you can't find what you're looking for, let Bobby J order a new ride for you today. Plus, Kia's best in-class warranty, 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty. Ask for Bobby J. He'll put you in a new Kia today. Gossett Kia, 1900 Covington Pike. Online, KiaCovingtonPike.com. If you want it, we got it at Gossett Motor Cars. All 650 acquisition fee, 30,000 miles, 20 cents excess mileage. Sold P7866 988, MSRP 22,945. K5 PG 200 400, MSRP 26,455. Sportage PG 107 225, MSRP 29,790. Includes all rebates and incentives. Must finance 200. Excludes tax title and license with approved credit. See dealer for complete details. Offer valid through 3/31/2023. Dealer stock only. Warranty is a limited powertrain warranty. See Kia.com or retailer for details.
Do not.
Do so.
You do not love Central Barbecue more than me.
I've been talking about Central Barbecue for years. I was the first person to do these spots.
Well, I may be new doing them, but I want to shout from the rooftops just how much I love it.
Okay, smart guy. What are the sides at Central Barbecue?
Easy. Home-cooked pork rinds, home-cooked potato chips, greens, green beans, barbecue beans, onion rings, fries, and potato salad.
Lucky guess. What can you buy by the pound, huh?
Beef brisket, pulled pork, smoked turkey, my favorite, pulled chicken, smoked chicken, and barbecue bologna. Ha!
We're out of time.
I could do this all day.
When you think about insurance and you want great value without sacrificing great service, I want you to think one place: the Eflin Insurance and the entire Eflin Insurance team. Matt and his group of professionals will access 10 leading companies to find the right home and auto program that fits your budget and your absolute needs. The Eflin Insurance team, the number 386-GER, 386-4777. Homer Skelton Hyundai Genesis in Olive Branch has an offer you can't refuse. They will pay you to do business with them if you want luxury. And I'm talking the Genesis G70 car. If you would love to have that kind of new technology, they will give you a $1,000 rebate when you finance with Genesis Motor Finance. In other words, they'll pay you $1,000 to do business with them, and you get brand new luxury. You can't beat it. That's Homer Skelton Hyundai Genesis, right at the corner of Craft Road and Highway 78 in Olive Branch. Homer Skelton Hyundai Genesis in Olive Branch, where customer retention is amazing. There's a reason. They take care of you with a team that's been together for a long time. Whether it's finance or whether it's service, you can't beat them. Homer Skelton Hyundai Genesis.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
I'm sorry to disappoint everybody, but Dave's segment is done. He was nice enough to join us from Columbus the last segment. Big game today for the Tigers, obviously.
And he's
playing
about
FAU.
to head over here shortly to see USC Michigan State.
He's got a full slate
Lucky
of 4
guy.
games he gets to watch live in person today. But luckily, we are able to be joined by Andy Schiffman from Priority Sports and Entertainment. Andy, thanks so much for joining Bryant and I this morning. I think the obligatory question I have to ask you when you come on the radio during the NCAA tournament is, how does your bracket look? What team do you have in the Final Four, and what team do you have winning it all?
Well, the problem with me is I usually fill out about a dozen brackets. I don't know why. I just get too inundated with pools and brackets and things. It's fun. So I would say I've got Alabama going pretty far in just about all of them. I've got Alabama and a little bit of Kansas. Now, a little bit biased because our agency represents Nate Oates, who's the head coach of Alabama. But having said that, I've watched them all year, and they're very deep. They're very good. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe, was it Virginia and Arizona who just got bounced yesterday? Were they both in Alabama's region or up side of the bracket to where it makes it that much you would think relatively easier for Alabama? I actually did have Furman over Virginia. Furman scores a lot of points. Virginia is really a sound defensive team, but they don't have that elite level offensive threat this year, and you saw what happened yesterday. But it's fun, man. I'll tell you, I'm excited for Memphis, obviously, tonight. I went to IU, so I'm an Indiana guy, so I'm looking forward to watching my Hoosiers tonight. And just a slate of games tomorrow as well, Sunday, and this is the best time of year if you're a basketball fan.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun watching the tournament. Alabama, like you said, some good teams in their league went down, but who knows? Maybe the teams that knocked them off are better than the experts think, as they say. I got to ask you this too, as an agent who represents not only coaches, you mentioned Nate Oates, but a lot of NBA players as well. How much stock do you put in when you're evaluating guys into what they're doing in the NCAA tournament, or do you guys try and get more of a big picture look, or maybe you're turned on to a guy in the NCAA tournament? Just tell me what that process is like, how much stock you put into players that you see in the tournament.
Well, it's a great question, Jay, because all that goes on. Now, you have to stay grounded, and you can't get too enamored and fall in love with a player that gets hot in a matter of 3 or 4 games. I mean, years ago, if you remember, Joe Alexander out of West Virginia had a great run in the tournament and ended up being a lottery pick. I think he even may have went 10th to Milwaukee, excuse me, and was, I hate to use the word dud in the NBA, but he was. And having known people at the time that worked for the Bucks, I know that obviously they kind of got too excited about his resume in the tournament versus looking at things as a whole. So you can, if you're a talent evaluator this time of year, whether you're in the NBA or on my side as an agent, that's a threat you have to be cognizant of. Is fool's gold? Is this really the player that you're getting? Is he just getting hot at the right time? So I would say that's definitely a piece of it. Now, the flip side of it, me as an agent, if I'm evaluating a player, for example, I'm going through this right now with a player at a I would say a relatively large school in a large conference, but he's not a lottery pick by any means. If you're evaluating a player like that you're unsure of if he's going to be an NBA player, if he's going to be a first rounder, if it's really worth my time recruiting the player, then I'm going to use the tournament as a platform to evaluate that much further. And so I did that yesterday when he played. Liked what I saw. We'll do it again since they won. We'll do it again tomorrow as a staff. So it's all part of the evaluation process. I don't look at the tournament, though, as, oh, my goodness, like we love this player during the season, and he just laid an egg in this one game at the tournament on Thursday or Friday, and they're done, and then we're off them, and you can't really swing too far the other way. It's just all part of the evaluation process. But, again, these NBA teams as well, I mean, they're looking at your body of work. They're not getting too built up or too overly excited or walking away just based off of one game.
That's interesting. You, like anything else, can't get too high, can't get too low, I suppose. It's kind of like the full body of work, like you said. A lot more games today we're excited about, too. Obviously, Davis as well. But let's talk a little bit about the NBA here. And before we get to breaking down the teams themselves, some big news this week with the suspension officially announced of Ja Morant out until Monday. But they say, getting back into shape and everything, it might take him a little bit longer. What did you make of the suspension? And also, I don't know if you saw that interview he did with Jalen Rose. What did you think about that interview and the line of questioning from Jalen Rose as well?
I saw it in passing, and I meant to go back and watch it, so maybe you can enlighten me. I didn't get to sit down and watch it all yet. I need to. That's a good reminder. But look, obviously Ja is the Memphis Grizzlies. He's the city of Memphis to an extent. He's the Grizzlies. He's the reason why they're as good as they are. And relatively speaking, there's really never been that many, if any, blemishes off the court up until recently. Now, obviously, a lot of the buzz around the team, you have a lot of people in the know saying, look, we saw this coming. This was bound to happen. I think as his notoriety and his popularity continued to grow over the last several months, a year, et cetera, last couple of seasons, look, I all these players, you got to be careful who you put around you.
Yeah.
And when you become bigger than the team and bigger than the city like Ja has become, as a young man, it's very easy to have people all around you that you've known your whole life just influence you to make bad decisions and exercise poor judgment. And I don't know these people individually. Obviously, you see his family there at every game. I believe the Grizzlies previously had to move his mom from sitting courtside, and now you've got his dad down there. And look, I don't know T individually. I do know, look, my own opinion, if you have any other fan in the NBA dapping up players and yelling at players and kind of stepping out in the court and high-fiving Ja and all that, in any other arena around the NBA, immediately that fan would be ejected and probably face a ban for an amount of time from that arena from NBA games. And I think you have to be careful. There's a fine line of supporting your family and supporting your friend versus kind of overstepping your boundaries of what you should be doing. And I'm not saying that's just a negative influence. It's just more of an observation from my standpoint. But I think a lot of what is going on with Ja is more of a product of the people he has surrounding him. Now, I do know from talking with my players that Ja seems genuinely apologetic. He seems to understand the detriment that he has caused to the team, and especially the season the team is having, the little slide they're facing now. It's not good. And that's all, unfortunately, because of Ja, because he carries his team, and you can't expect to go far into the playoffs without Ja. Now, the positive is he's coming back soon. You assume he's going to be just as much in game shape as he ever was. Maybe they're going to bring him in slowly if he hadn't really been working out over the last couple of weeks and maybe limit his minutes right off the bat. But he's healthy, and that's a positive. You want a healthy Ja Morant. You're going to be able to put – I do think he's someone that can put all this behind him and kind of compartmentalize and turn this off when he steps out there in the court and just be a competitor. But I think it's something that is being addressed, will continue to be addressed moving forward. And look, if you're a Grizzlies fan, you hope that a month from now, this is all relatively forgotten and they're playing well into the playoffs and having a run to try and get to the Western Conference Finals and even the finals. That is all still very possible, but it's definitely something that you have to be aware of if you're a Grizzlies fan.
And not to lose sight of getting Steven Adams back, too, another huge piece, although without the saga surrounding his return. Go ahead, Bryant.
Yeah, well, and I think you made a great point about the people that he surrounds himself with, and I'm glad to hear that, you've heard that he seems apologetic and kind of knows what he's done. But curious about, for you, with the Grizzlies, we've seen them, obviously the Ja Morant story has kind of blocked out the sun, but also Steven Adams' injury, and he's going to be out for another 4 or so weeks. And then the Brandon Clark injury, he's out for the year. I mean, it seemed like for a span there, a week or so, it seemed like everything that could possibly go wrong for the Grizzlies was going wrong. But kind of over this first 11 games, some tough games in that stretch, and I believe they went 6-5 in that stretch that ended the other night. What have you thought about just how the Grizzlies have been able to kind of persevere through all of this kind of bad news? What have you thought about this first 11 games since the All-Star break?
Look, I mean, I think I give a lot of credit to the coaching staff for making sure everyone's head is on straight. And these are professionals, right? These are not 18, 19-year-old college kids with just a lot of noise surrounding a program where you're constantly being approached by your peers and being asked the same question and being made fun of and things like that. These are all professionals, and they've come together as a group. They've experienced hardship before. Obviously, you start the season without Jaren Jackson. My guy Santi stepped up in a big way. I think that stretch absolutely helped the Grizzlies now when you still need help up front, and you've got help from Santi, who has stepped into that role before, and he has that much more experience. Xavier Tillman, another guy that my agency represents, he stepped up in a big way. And look, it's positive when you're that deep and you can rely on players that maybe you're not significant, consistent, rotational players every single week in the NBA, more so speaking to Xavier, that now you as a staff and the coaching staff can plug in and rely on. And I'm not saying rely on to be a starter and put up a double-double and play 30 minutes every night, but just go out there and do your job and help us win possessions. Maybe you give 12 to 20 serviceable minutes, but you're not a liability out there. That's the biggest thing. They need to just maintain the status quo. Do not, if you're one of these peripheral pieces, prove you're not a liability. Look, and then you want to have great production from the Desmond Baines of the world, from, obviously the Dylan Brooks of the world, from Tyus Jones. Who else you got? I mean, Jaren obviously is playing at a high level. And then you got bench production. I know the other night when they blasted Dallas in Dallas, David Roddy had a big one. Conchar can get hot. You've obviously added Luke Kennard. I mean, these are all players that maybe you're shifted down a peg in the regular rotation when you have a Ja Morant back and BC and Steven, but you can get great production. I've watched Luke Kennard for years now, and you guys know just as well as I do. He's someone that on any given night can go out there and get hot and put up 25 points and knock down 7 or 8 threes. He can do that with or without Ja or Steven or BC. And so I think they're deep. I think they've got great pieces. And look, they've got a little bit of a cushion. The biggest thing for the Grizzlies is to maintain home court advantage. They're 5 games back of first right now. Denver's hit a slide. They won last night. Phoenix, obviously, if you're a Grizzlies fan, you're definitely happy that KD's still out. There's a 4-game cushion between Memphis at 3 and Phoenix at 4. You just want to maintain that. I think Sacramento is hot. My guy Kevin Huerter got injured last night, so he may be out for the foreseeable future. But I was at the Bulls game when Sac beat them in a real nail-biter the other night, and De'Aaron Fox is just elite. So I think Sac could really make a nice little run here and compete for – it's crazy to say this, but I think they could compete for first in the Western Conference heading into the playoffs. And it's just Memphis has to maintain one of those top 4 spots, which, look, I don't think they're going to finish 2. Dave asked me that a couple of weeks ago, and I said it. But I think they can still finish in the top 4. But you got to be clicking on all cylinders, and you have to maintain consistency, I would say, from your bench and continue to find ways to just win possessions and steal some wins here and there that you may not have otherwise thought you could get.
Yeah, Kevin Werder, huge injury you mentioned, too. We went down at the very beginning of that basketball game, too. It's tough to see that. Hopefully the Kings can bounce back from something like that, too. I talked to you a lot about the West last time we talked, so I want to kind of focus my attention on the East and a team that just beat the Grizzlies, the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat have had a lot of shooting woes all year. A lot of people point to their point differential as not being good, albeit they're a very good defensive team. The whole team's a low amount of points, shooting 39% over their last 10 games, a really good 3-point shooting percentage there. Do you think the Heat are legitimate threats to teams if they're the 7, 8, probably maybe 6 seed even, to the teams like the Bucks, the Celtics, and the Sixers?
Well, the Bucks, the Celtics, and the Sixers are so good. And I think we talked about this before, probably middle of the season. They're always a threat. You can never discount Miami. Are they a threat to go out there and maybe win a first-round matchup? Let's just say they lock into that 7th or 8th spot and advance out of the play-in tournament, play-in group rather, and they're facing a Milwaukee or Boston. I mean, I still would put Milwaukee or Boston and Philadelphia to win a 7-game series over the Heat. But just like we're talking about now in the NCAA tournament, you can never discount competitive basketball this time of year. Now, in a series, obviously it's more difficult. I don't know if the Heat can sustain the shooting that they've had recently over the course of that series when you're matched up with elite defensive teams like a Milwaukee, like a Boston. I don't know if I say, Philly is definitely very good defensively, but when they've got Harden and Joel Embiid clicking on all cylinders and guys like George Niang, Tyrese Maxey are giving them productivity, PJ Tucker, et cetera, they're very, very hard to compete with. I mean, Joel Embiid is out of this world talented. So I think they could pose a threat to make it an interesting series. I don't think the Heat would face anyone and get swept. I think they're going to definitely be able to win a couple games at home. But long term, I wouldn't put Miami as a threat to overcome one of Milwaukee, Boston, or Philadelphia in the long-term series. What's really interesting to me while we're on the topic of the East, though, Jay, is, I mean, Philadelphia is only 3 games back of Milwaukee now for the number 1 overall spot. Then you got Boston 2 games back. And I think for the longest time, especially when they went on that extraordinary win streak fairly recently, the Bucks, you just thought the Bucks were running away with the East. And then if you look up, I mean, it's a pretty tight race. And depending on how these schedules shape up the rest of the way here, these final few weeks of the season, it could be really interesting down the stretch to see who locks in that number 1 overall seed between Milwaukee, Boston, and Philadelphia. I think Milwaukee will still hang on to it. And I think for me, they're still my favorites to come out of the East. But I would probably have Boston right there as someone that could definitely compete with getting the first spot and really coming out of the East as well. If it's not going to be Milwaukee, it's going to be Boston. I love Philadelphia. I love watching the Sixers. I represent George Niang, who we talk about a lot in the show.
Love him.
I just don't know if I have them over Boston, barring any unforeseen injury.
Yeah, it really is crazy. Like you said, the Bucks with that giant win streak running away with it. The Celtics seem to have just been on one long win streak all season, very consistent. And the Sixers have won 6 straight now, too. Everyone likes to talk about how competitive the West is, but that East, and the Knicks just went on a win streak in their own right recently. And so, like you said, the East is very, very competitive. I'm kind of scared of everybody, even all the way down to the Heat there, and whoever that 8 seed is going to be, I'm going to be scared of them as well. Well, Andy, thank you so much for joining us today. Tons of basketball in college, tons of basketball happening in the NBA. Thanks so much for making the time for us.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good weekend.
You too, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
Andy Schiffman from Priority Sports and Entertainment joining us, sports agent to George Niang,
And Santi.
And Santi Aldama, and Xavier Tillman, mentioned today.
And
Kevin Werder, who went down yesterday. Tough injury.
I was, when he said, right when we first started talking to him, that there was a player playing yesterday in the tournament that
on a prominent team.
He said somewhat prominent basketball team.
You think it was 21 on Charleston Davis? No, that's not a prominent team.
He said they won. So he said everyone would be watching him. I think it's Penn State.
Who's the player? Do you know?
Jalen Pickett.
Pickett? What? Give me. Can I have one tidbit about Pickett?
He leads the team in like points, rebounds, and assists and steals or something like that.
Big
Maybe
boy.
not rebounds. No, he's guard. Maybe not rebounds. Maybe it's points, assists, and steals. But he's old, so I don't know. Maybe not. But I was just looking at like what somewhat prominent team. Maybe down Missouri.
Juzang.
That's a too prominent. That wouldn't be a somewhat prominent
too
team.
prominent. Okay.
That'd be too prominent, right? I mean, maybe a guy on San Diego State. I don't know.
Someone on Auburn. Someone on Maryland.
Maybe. I don't know. I like Jones Pickett, so that's why. That's probably why I thought him.
I wanted it to be 21 on Charleston.
Well,
I really wanted to pick his brain and just ask him players that I recognized yesterday that I liked. You looking at this guy? You looking at this guy? You looking at this guy?
I don't know if he would tell us.
Yeah, I don't know if he would tell us, and I thought that might be too intrusive, so I didn't say it. Up next, though, we got a lot of games today. Bryant and I are going to talk about each one and tell you what Greg Hoops Peterson has for each of these games as well. That's next.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Spring is around the corner. That means the sounds of air conditioners cranking up will be in the air soon. Hi, this is Lauren Choate with Choate's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Plumbing. This month only, receive $1,000 off the purchase of a new Carrier AC unit. No gimmicks, just $1,000 off for the Choate's Early Bird Carrier AC special. If your AC is in good shape, call us to get your $60 20-point AC tune-up to get your AC cleaned and ready for the warm seasons ahead. Choate's is here for all your cooling, heating, plumbing, air duct cleaning, and commercial needs. Call us today at 347-8086 to take advantage of these early bird specials. Or to schedule online, visit ChoatesHVAC.com. So turn to the experts with Choates. And remember, let our family serve your family.
Hi, this is Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. In these uncertain economic times, there are so many things as a contractor and a business owner that I cannot control. The rising cost of materials, not to mention fuel and transportation costs. In the last 2 years, shingle prices have almost doubled and commercial materials have doubled. And I don't have to tell you what fuel costs these days. But you know what I can control? How much markup I put on a project. I have always prided myself in knowing I never gouge a customer. But in an effort to ensure my crews have work and my customers are being treated fairly, I have lowered my profit margin, hoping to give you a price you can live with and keeping my crews busy. So if you need a roof or gutters, please give us a call. Fiveash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. Fiveash Roofing, a proud sponsor of Tiger Athletics and a member of the Tigers home team. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Fiveash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
Come celebrate the savings with Gossett Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Fiat on the Pike. It's Ram Truck Month and the Jeep Celebration event, so we're ready to rock. 2022 Jeep Renegade $5,000 off. 2022 Dodge Charger $6,000 off. And 2023 Grand Cherokee El Laredo with third row seating $7,000 off. Plus 2022 Fiat 500X $4,000 off. Gossett Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Fiat on the Pike says you won't find a better deal anywhere else. And if we don't have it, Gossett will order it today. So drive past the rest and come to the best at Gossett on the Pike or shop online at GossettMotorCars.net.
If you want it, we got it at Gossett Motor Cars.
Fiat 500X, NP 98268, MSRP 30,950, Renegade NPN 95921, MSRP 32130, Charger number NH261941, MSRP 35630, Cherokee PH 794494, MSRP 46765. Includes all rebates and incentives, excludes tax time and license with approved credit. See dealer for complete details. Offer valid through 3/31/23. Dealer stock only.
Looking for a great home-cooked late lunch with meat and veggies? Make sure to stop into 10th Inning Sports Bar and Grill Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. for baked and fried chicken, hamburger steaks, chicken dumplings, catfish, and more with yummy vegetables. Plus a great brunch on the weekends from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. 10th Inning Grill has plenty of TVs for all your favorite sports. Visit them on Facebook to see the daily specials. 10th Inning Sports Bar and Grill, voted best sports bar in DeSoto County, Gidwell Road, South Haven.
I only do one thing, residential real estate sales. This is Sheldon Rosengarten with Mark Spensdorf Realtors.
I'm Kelly Erb and work with Sheldon at Mark Spensdorf Realtors. Sheldon, what happens if someone needs help with a commercial or an investment property?
Kelly, over the years, I've had many people ask if we could help them buy, rent, or sell commercial properties, investment, warehouse spaces, or land. But as Clint Eastwood said, a man has to know his limitations, and I know mine. We work with specialists in the real estate industry who are trained and know a whole lot more than we do in commercial sales, leasing, and so forth. So remember what people say about selling houses when you want the job done. Who do you call, Kelly?
You call or email Sheldon or me, Kelly Erb, at 355-3830. And if it's not involving residential, check with us anyhow, as we know people who know what they're doing in other fields.
That's Kelly Erb at 355-3830, or reach me, Sheldon Rosengarten, at MemphisRelocate.com or 483-0546.
I know you're thinking about pools and patios right now. Don't deny it, they're on your mind. So it's a good thing that Family Leisure is having their preseason patio and pool sale. It's like they're mind readers. You can buy now and save big with the area's largest selection of patio furniture. You want free layaway? Done. You want special financing? Done. You want to be ready to enjoy your backyard just as soon as spring hits? Family Leisure has you covered. Patio and pool season's not that far away. So now's the time to take advantage of this fantastic early bird pricing special. Now here comes the really special part. If you mention this commercial, you get half off delivery and installation. I'll let that sink in for a second. You heard me right, my friends. You mentioned this very commercial, and Family Leisure will give you half off delivery and installation. The preseason patio and pool sale is happening now at Family Leisure, Witten Road at I-40, where family and fun come together.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Lonely feeling deep inside. Find a corner where I can hide.
No, Dave, he's in Columbus. Watch the Memphis Tigers and FAU play today, and you can hear Dave on the call on the radio. Woj just tweeted Kevin Werder's MRI came back clean. He's day-to-day.
Good.
Great news. He only played 6 minutes last night, and he's not hurt for the future, so that's excellent. And now Bryant and I are going to talk about the NCAA tournament games later today. And they start here in what, Bryant, like 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, 15, 20 minutes.
I mean, we are coming down to the wire here. Should we go through like we did yesterday and just start at the top? Because the first game is competitive.
Sure. I love that first game. Man, I'm excited.
All right, well, let's start at the first game then. The first game today at 11:15 is USC and Michigan State. USC, former Tiger on their team. Michigan State has no former Tigers on their team. Is that a factor today, Bryant? The number of former Tigers on your team.
The Tiger factor. The Tigers also in Columbus, Ohio. The Trojans in Columbus, Ohio.
Maybe
I got a
Penny's
good feeling.
Going to give Boogie a pep talk before the game.
I got a good feeling. I don't know if Boogie wants to hear a pep talk from Penny.
Maybe not. Okay. But what do you think about the game?
I think I like USC a lot in this game.
Michigan State favored by 2.5. Greg Peterson thinks USC should be favored.
Drew Peterson, is that his name? The shooter for USC?
Greg Peterson.
No, not Greg Peterson.
Oh, okay.
Drew Peterson.
Oh, okay.
The shooter for USC. He was questionable, and he's now available. So that's good.
So huge factor in that one. Next game, that was a bad ring. Let's try it again. Better.
That was okay ring.
That was okay ring. The next game, that was Kennesaw State and Xavier. Xavier, 12.5-point favorites. Another big discrepancy with Greg Peterson. He thinks Xavier should only be favored by 8. Kennesaw State's pretty competitive, Bryant.
Kennesaw State is one of those teams that a lot of people like as an upset pick.
And how many 3-14 games yesterday were big discrepancies? Were there any 3-14 games yesterday? There were none.
Were there not?
No, Gonzaga, Xavier, Baylor, and Kansas State. So there were none yesterday.
They're all today.
But even 4-13, there was no big discrepancy games yesterday. What makes people think that Xavier's going to beat Kennesaw State so badly?
Well, Xavier's played really well this season in a really good Big East conference, so maybe that. But I don't know. I don't know if Kennesaw State wins, but I don't think they lose by 12.
You don't think it's a beatdown of sorts?
No.
All right, let's do one more here. UCSB Baylor or VCU and St. Mary's? Take your pick.
VCU St.
Okay,
Mary's.
VCU St. Mary's.
Man.
Tell me about it.
Well, St. Mary's, everybody loves the Gales. They were the number 1 seed in the same conference of Gonzaga. But, man, I watched that VCU team late this season. I watched them in their conference tournament.
Getting hot?
I love this VCU team.
Wow. The spread is 4 points for St. Mary's. Greg Peterson also thinks St. Mary's wins by 4. What do you say, Brian
I say
Takis?
take the Rams straight up.
Wow, Rams straight up. Good pick. Bet it all. Johnny Radio next.
Homer Skelton Hyundai.